And we're live. Cool. I think everything is set. Thanks. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending. I want another one of our online events, and it seems we're still going to be online for a while, but that's fine. We're still doing it. Um, First, I'm going to start with a few announcements. Let me share my screen. Let me see here. Okay. Well, again, we're the Charlotte Java User Group. These are the places where you can find us. Our website, cltjog.org. If you use Twitter, please follow us at cltjog. That's our handler. Um, that's where you can find, real-time announcements and stuff like that. All these sessions, and also since we started doing the online sessions and some of the in-person sessions that we had, you can find them in our YouTube channel. So you can just look for us on Charlotte, search for Charlotte Jog, or you can find the links to everything in our website. This is the email where you can find us if you want to reach out to us with any feedback of how we can improve the community. If you're interested in sponsoring, if you're interested in giving a talk, or anything that you can just want to share, or if you just want to say hi, we welcome any messages. So you can find us at this email. This email, again, you can find it on our website. And so everything is there. So if you want to memorize something, it's just the website. JetBrains is one of our sponsors. We really appreciate them sponsoring our Jog. They provide 1-year license to give away in a raffle. So pay attention to the talk. Nacho is gonna make a question related to what he's gonna be sharing with us. And whoever responds the first and correctly on the YouTube live chat, you will get a 1-year license. And how we're gonna send it to you, just send us an email to this email so we can get your email address and we'll send the details of the license. This is pretty cool because it's not only for IntelliJ. You can get a 1-year license for any of the products that, most of the products that they have. So this is pretty cool. I also want to quickly talk about the partnership that Tech Elevator and the City of Charlotte are having. They're giving away, I think I sent an announcement on Meetup. But what they're doing is they're giving away, in partnership with the City of Charlotte, they're giving away a boot camp for people that have been impacted by COVID or that they want to switch careers. I think the application, the due date it's over, but I think it's pretty cool. They're going to provide a 14-week full stack Java training, and they're going to try to position these people that get graduated into one of the businesses here in Charlotte. So it's pretty cool. And I wanted to bring it up because they're also going to have sessions with panelists. So if you're interested in being part of a panel and share your experience with people that are transitioning to IT, uh, send an email to Laura at techelevator.com, and or you can reach out to us and we'll hook you up. But this is I think a really good cause. It's going to help a lot of people. So if you're an experienced developer or you have gone through similar transition, reach out and you could share that with people that will get a lot of value out of that. Okay. Nacho is in Barcelona, so we really appreciate you doing this. I know it's really late for you, but yeah, thanks a lot for doing this. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself. So Nacho, it's let me stop sharing my screen.
Cool.
Yep.
So thank you, Orlando. Thank you, Abel. Thank you, all the Charlotte Java user group for inviting me to be here. It's too late here in Barcelona. That's why, sun is going down. So yeah, let me share my screen and then I think we can start. So let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah. Can you see it? Yep. Okay. Thank you. So let's see. I hope that I will be able to. Let me see if I can. Yeah, much better. So yep. Let's see. Who I am. I'm basically a senior developer. I would say senior Java software engineer. It's in Dynatrace. I love clean code. Who doesn't love clean code, right? And I love to play and work with TDD. I also founded the Barcelona Java user group in Barcelona long time ago. I think more than 10 years ago. And also I was co-founder of the Java Barcelona JVM Barcelona conference. It's a great conference, I can tell you. I have to mention that I would like to invite everybody to come to Barcelona and see it. And also I was, I like to play many sports, and I've been running by the mountains a long time ago. Now I don't have too much time, and also I tweet from time to time in many different languages, because here in Spain we talk in Spanish, Catalan, and also in English. So I you probably might see me talking about clean code and this kind of thing. So yeah, that's more or less me. And yeah, I have here kind of the thing that I would like to share with you, and more or less what I want to, let's say, explain is what I learned about refactoring code and what we can do for doing it properly, let's say. And that's why I think we need first of all to understand what is legacy code, what means refactor, and why it's so important. And then I will explain you when we can do it. There are different, let's say, moments where we can do it. And I will share with you a few tips that I normally follow to change the code that I look normally. And then I will try to do kind of a demo and see if I can do it somehow. And then let's do a recap. For sure, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, or just, I guess Orlando will raise your hand for you, and then we will be able to try to answer it. So yeah, good, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot to mention. You can send questions on the live stream on YouTube, and there's a slight delay of what you're seeing the video and when we're gonna answer the questions. But yeah, send any questions and we'll be monitoring there.
Cool. Thank you. So with the first thing that I would like to mention is to know to define what is legacy code. There are many different, let's say, definitions about legacy code. I basically try to, let's say, summarize what legacy code is in three different phrases, and I choose three that I love the most probably. And one probably is the most famous one, is the one that by Michael Feller that says, "Oh, everything that is not tested could be legacy code, or is at least seems to be legacy code." Another definition that I like very much is one by Victor Rentea, another Java champion, really famous speaker from Romania, that he says that something that is really interesting, that the day that you don't touch your code, you don't do any refactoring, then this moment is when your application became legacy. That's another interesting point of thinking about legacy code. And the last one is from JB Reisenberger. I guess many of you might know him. And basically, it's this kind of sensation of software that we know it's providing value, but we are afraid to change. No, this is something like, it's in production, but I'm not able to change it, right? And I can see myself in this situation not too much time ago. But sure, you have this, no, you have felt that sensation that I don't understand really what's this code doing and why. And that's things that are really related with the possibility to work as a, no, as a surgeon, no, as a when you have to be really careful with touching few things and to work with the maximum care, no, like surgery mode, when you have to touch here, and do not touch here because otherwise you're gonna break something because the things are apparently not really well designed or are not really well tested, let's say. So yeah, many times happens to me. So I guess uh, at some point you are afraid, right? So that's what happened to me, and I think it happens to many people that then I like, oh, I'm scared to go to that module and go to that microservice or to go to that let's say application that is, I know already that sensation, to touch in the code. Okay, so let's try to then move to understand what refactoring is, and I guess everybody might understand what refactoring is, but there are many misunderstandings about it. Even it's important to understand that refactoring means not changing the behavior, right? So in this case, for example, you can see different cars here, but apparently they look the same, but they are not. The first one is, let's say, it's powered by fuel, and the second one is a bicycle, right? So the second one, let's say, doesn't need more than your effort, your strength to move it, and the first one is you need full to move it. So that's more or less let's say an analogy of what refactoring is the idea of altering, let's say, the structure internally, but they don't change the external behavior. So in this way, let's say the cars are exactly the same. No, if we are not changing the overall behavior from the external, we are just providing some changes internally, and then no, the car is still moving it. And the objective around refactoring is to make code and make changes that they make the software easier to understand and cheaper to modify. It's the idea of, I'm doing this because of a purpose of in the future, short future or middle future, or even for tomorrow, I can make it more, let's say, more clear and more easy to maintain. That's more or less the overall picture of what we want to achieve. Another example of, let's say, analogy of this way of what refactoring means is this two different images, which belongs to the first Formula One car, and the second one, of course, is another bicycle. Apparently, they are similar. In fact, I think one is a replica of some similar to Formula One car, but the other one is made by, boot, and you can drive it with your own foot, etc. But the other one is, no, again, is a car that you need fuel to move it. But if you think in the terms of, I'm just wondering, I can move with this vehicle from here to another location, they have the similar, let's say, behavior in that way. That's why altering this internal structure is the point here, right? So if we don't, let's say, the internal thing, we are already changing it, but without, for the output or the out of your system, you are not changing the external behavior, you are doing correct refactoring. Okay, so the idea is to make easier to understand, let's say, on the future, no, how to modify it easily without changing the observable behavior. No, observable, what we understand of observable is what from the output I can see it, no, I can understand it, like the public API, for example, of a component. Yeah. So why is important? Another interesting way of having a look is about in terms of maintainability or in terms of cost and effort. So this graphic, for example, is from Martin Fowler, and explains this stamina hypothesis. No, it is related with the design. So the point is that at some level, probably it's not interesting to have, let's say, a really nice design, because below that line is the line that you can see at that level, right? Below that line probably makes not too much sense to have a really perfect design, because it's more important to arrive time to market than the quality that you are delivering, right? But at some point when you have a good design, probably you're going to be able to deliver functionalities more faster than if you don't have a good one. That's why at some point you might need more time. If you don't have a good design, you might need more time to get the new feature working in production properly, right? So you have to put some effort into make the things work in the good internal design and increase this stamina, right? To make your software going faster and going for a long time, right? That's more or less the overall idea. And another probably similar that you have been you probably have been looking in the past is that you already know, right? It's not the same the cost of developing a feature or a change already when you have in the initial process of your software, of your component. That is when you are in deployment, right? When you have something that is working and is already let's say giving value, it's more difficult to change and more difficult to let's say yeah, basically change it if you are already working with them, because then you have to pay some probably some debts, or you have to fix something, or you have to change something and you didn't take into account when you were not in this stage you were previously, right? So that's why it's more easy to make it in the very beginning than in later. So another last argument to understand why refactoring is important came from I think it's a criminological theory that basically came from the 80s, where there was some problems, let's say, with some cities where they have they call broken windows, right? So it's basically is a state a definition of that visible things of crime and some antisocial behavior and this kind of like, let's say this civil disorder, right? It encouraged people to commit crime and some disorders, so they including, let's say, serious crimes. It's a theory that was proved in the 80s, and basically what it reminds is that you have to take care of the problems when they are really I would say small. When you have a successful strategy to solve the problems when they are really in a low level, it's they are more easy to fix than when you have a lot of, let's say, a full neighborhood where all your windows are broken, because then you will see that all your neighborhood is completely, let's say, unstable, right? So related deep with software means that when you have minor cause smells that are things that are, let's say, really easy to fix, this much better, because otherwise when these things grow, you're going to see they generate classes and software that is going to be more complicated and more difficult to maintain, right? So let's move now from understanding what refactoring is, and now let's see when, right? So there are different moments where you can, let's say, refactor your code. The one of the most famous probably is this one, all right? We have to prepare for adding a new feature. No, we have to do something before because our software is not really prepared for, let's say, doing something in particular. No, like when you, for example, you have to prepare the environment, you have to collect something, or when you, for example, you have to go some places. Now you have the analogy to traveling. Now we are at a different moment, but imagine you have to travel to somewhere. You normally, go ahead and say, oh, the map. Oh, I have to go here, and then I have to find the best place. I have to visit this, and then I have to move to. And basically, you are planning things before arriving to the place that you want. So that's more or less the idea of this preparatory kind of refactoring, right? Another easy, let's say, way to understanding this type of refactoring is when you don't understand what's going on with your software, right? So you need first to have, let's say, move your understanding into code, right? So it's like, okay, what this software is doing when you have to answer this kind of question is then when you basically you are doing this kind of refactor. Now, when you need first to, let's say, um, get the code in some way clearer to make it understandable, right? So it's when you have some things that are not really, let's say, the design is not really well prepared, and then you need something in the middle before, then you need to, let's say, you're applying this kind of refactoring. No, so we need to, let's say, transfer what we have in our head in code, right? Another one that probably many of you are aware of is when you are, you need to clean something in the terms of what you are building something, no, and you have to clean. Oh, we forgot to do this, and then now we have to let's say remove it, or we have to adapt it, no. So that's normally one of the refactors more easy to know when we have something really bad, no, or when we have to remove it, no, at some point, or methods that are duplicated, etc. No, so these are small things that we can again, we can fix it, and then for sure it's going to be a little improvement in your actual code base, but it's gonna help you and you for your colleagues in tomorrow, no. So all of these, let's say, leader pickup refactoring is interesting in terms of making the things better, even they are small, for the future. And there's two more ways when we can refactor. One is the plan, right? No, we have something that is, we need a specific amount of time that we cannot, let's say, make it during our actual, let's say, commitment. And there's a we need some specific time that we need to accomplish for solving a particular problem, right? So it's something more related with the technical debt that we haven't paid for I don't know, from some time. And this is completely, let's say, different from doing it continuously, right? So for a long time, many teams that they were just building features, and at some point they say, oh, we cannot, it is not easy, to continue and increase new functionalities because we have to fix that first, or just change this first. And this is the one of the things that probably you will have to pay this technical debt that we haven't paid, uh, let's say, time ago. And the last, well, not last, the previous, the last kind of different refactors that we can do on the time is one when they have a long one, right? Or imagine something like I have to change some dependencies, right? Or have to replace some library that has some issues. So this is this amount of time that is required is significantly higher, and of course this depends on you and your team. It means that this kind of effort and time is going to be spent on that particular case. Then you might need probably this kind of refactor when you have to prepare something with some, let's say, days or weeks in advance. Then you already know, no, okay, this is not a, let's say, it's not a technical debt, it's something that we have to do to accomplish this kind of functionality or this kind of requirement for any reason, no. And this is already something that many people may notice, but from time to time it happens, at least to me, that somebody say, oh, we have to accomplish this because for any security issues we didn't know, and now we have to, change that in the long term or even in the midterm. And the last way of, let's say, of doing refactors in the terms of the time probably is the less frequent, I would say, that is the continuous one, right? So when you have the mechanism to already try to change always your code, and you are, let's say, comfortable to changing it, just basically do it, no, right? Is the, let's say, the easy way of continuously change your code if you are able to make it, right? So for doing this, you need already some requirements and some, let's say, situations and conditions that you probably in not many cases you may have, right? So it's less effort if you have, let's say, the environment and all the situations, and your project is already prepared, and for sure all your environment is really let's say, prepare for that. And I would say also that probably culture makes it's really important. No, when you have colleagues that already understand that this is mandatory to make it better, and then you can do it without, let's say, thinking about it or asking time about it. No, when you understand that this continuous mechanism is going to be, let's say, improving your software, is, I would say, one of the different ways of doing refactoring, right? So let me continue sharing with you some tips that I, let's say, I gather with myself, but I basically try to explain what I learned from my experience. So first, one of the things that I personally like is that if you have some tools that can help you to write your code better and basically to be comfortable and be safe, one of the things basically is good to have a kind of a safety net, right? When you have your tests, let's say unit tests, normally, if you have some iterations with tests, that's okay. But basically you have something that gives you some security that already helps you, right, to to be comfortable with the software that you have is already working, and you have some really knowledge about it, and you're comfortable because the software is already covered by test. So, and the other thing that I can recommend you already to try is always try to run your test after every single change. No, it doesn't matter if it's really small, but I can recommend you to make it just to for the security of that you don't make a mistake. If you make a mistake, let's say, you only need to go back in a small amount of let's say of effort, right? And that's why this is related with this one, right? To do small steps and try small increments. To if you have something in the middle that doesn't work, just go back, right? It's really easy, and this related with the relationship of creating or just maintaining a heightened level of coverage of your software is going to help you, and we will see in the demo how to do it. But basically, just a good idea is to review your code coverage. I will not say that you have to maintain a particular level, because there are a lot of discussions around it, but I will say that please review the level of your coverage of your models in your software, because it is going to help you in one way or another. And I would say that probably is much better to go in higher than lower. But this is another discussion. And the thing that I also recommend is just try to keep the code simple as much as possible. There are not many places where you need, I would say, really complicated software where not many people need it, but there are places where it's okay, and I have seen some. But even in those cases, probably you don't need few things that normally many engineers do by definition, right? Because this is what I learned, this is what I'm doing for many years. Just think about it if it's really mandatory, and of course if it's not, just try to code as possible, as much simpler. And yeah, of course, just if you use whatever tool that you're using, just try to make it work, and then try to master it, try to make it perfect, or at least better, in terms of usage, in terms of knowledge, in terms of domination of your IDE or your tools, because basically you will see um, really improvements, and really let's say really benefit of, you will see some benefits of understanding better the tools in the mastering. Yeah, so that's it. I will continue. Yeah, so imagine, for example, in this case we have a code like this, right, that many of us probably have seen in the future. How to start, right? How I can just fix that amount of conditions that I have, like this and this and this and this. Okay, so I will basically try to go and start testing, right, for this shortest branch, and we will say why. Okay, that's a simple answer of this, because basically the best way of arriving to this place is probably the easiest one, right? I only need to negate one condition as the first condition that we have here on the top of this method, and then I will probably arrive to this. So probably this is the best way of covering part of my code, my actual code that is giving us, let's say, value in production by a particular test. Okay, that makes sense. But then how refactor the rest of the code and when to start. Okay, another point is that I would suggest to recommend to restart refactoring from the deepest branch. And you would say, why? Okay, there's another probably answer about it. But basically is that if you go to the deepest branch, probably you will notice some patterns and some kind of condition that it's going to be help you to understand the overall, let's say, objective of this code, right? And that's why from time to time, I would suggest to use this approach to understand first how the code is working, and go and start testing the shortest, let's say, approaches, but start changing the thing that is more in the deep, because it's probably more difficult to change and more difficult to understand it, right? But the point is, okay, we have a lot of catalog, a lot of refactorings that Martin Fowler already, let's say, compiling in his book, and already is in this website. I have more than 60 refactorings. Of course, I don't remember all of them, but I can recommend you, let's say, that some of them you should, let's say, um, I would say that are really easy to understand and really easy to maintain and also to apply, right? But the question probably many of you will say, okay, but how? It's not that easy in my case, because my project or my model or my company is not doing it really, and they're not giving me the time. Okay, so I will try to give you an example and see how we can do it. So yeah, this is the moment where we are going to move to the live coding. So if there are no questions up till until now, I will try to make it happen. Yeah, so that's what the things that I will say in advance, of course. When the things are and in live coding, probably things could happen. So if at some point I found something or something is going to be broken at some point, I will say that something that could happen is wrong. But yeah, let's try to make it work. So
Hey, Nacho, I
yeah,
think we have one question.
yeah, go ahead.
This is about the don't repeat yourself. What
Yep.
is the rule of thumb for copy paste is okay versus don't repeat yourself and create a method?
Okay. Oh, it's a difficult question, but I would say that I'm not. I'm one of the person that I don't see many problems with, let's say, having repeated code, right? The only thing that I don't like if those this code is not very well tested or very well covered by coverage. I have seen in different projects where you have, let's say, independent microservices, that is it's more convenient to copy some functionality, for example, some utilities, because they've been in different microservices, right? In this case, I could accept, copy and pasted these, let's say, functionalities, these little, let's say, utilities, if you want. But at the same time, is a a trade-off always when you have to copy and paste particular code that you're going to be repeated in different projects. Probably at some point you might need to change. So why not converting a library, for example, is a utility that you can basically deploy with a particular version, and all of your components will use. But at some point, yes, it's not a, let's say, there's no magic bullet for this. And I would say that depending on the moment, I'm really happy. Well, I will not say really happy, but I'm more happy to having code that is repeated than that is, let's say, covered by tests. That code that is not repeated but is terribly awful in this case. Yeah. So if not more questions, let me see. Uh, yeah. So in this live code, I will share an example. Is an already well-known kata, but I think is makes more sense about explaining what I explained, but in another way, in a more hands-on way. It's called trip service kata. You can find it is from Sandro Mancuso, and it's interesting in terms of what we have right now. Let's imagine that this service, right, that we have already in production, and this service is giving us value because, I don't know, imagine a website that is, well, probably today is not the best, no, and with COVID people are not traveling a lot, but imagine that we are already in this market, and not too much time ago, kind of a social network that can give you some values, because you can share with your friends or with friends of your friends your trips, and you can share images. No, you know more or less this kind of idea of a project. And more or less this project, this idea of this service is more or less the one that we want to, let's say, have a look and review how it's let's say, in terms of legacy code. So in first case, I would say that this method, let's say, is the one that is used, is the main entry for this service. And as we can see, we have some business logic here, but I don't understand really well, no, because there are many, let's say, conditions here. There's a for loop here, and there's a lot of another condition here, and we have throwing exceptions at the same time. So a bit cumbersome, no, in terms of what I could understand as a clean service, right? So let's start first with going to the test, because probably the tests are really well, and then we oh shit. So that's the thing that happened, right? When we have something that somebody gives you, or somebody that say, this is the model that you have to know, you have to maintain from now, and your boss says, oh, this is from you. This is the things that happen, no, that this project that is working properly, apparently they don't have, or it doesn't have the amount of code that we expect in terms of tests, no. That's why when I normally receive some kind of code from any of my colleagues, but the things that I normally do is I go to the test and see how it behaves, no, how it smell, how I can smell it, no. So yeah, apparently, let's see, we have more tests here. Oh yes, it's the same result. So I think we are not gonna see anything from the perspective of receiving some value, no, from the test. But in any case, there is some business here. I can see some business logic. So what I will do basically in this case is I will go to the test and start doing few things about, because I'm not really happy, no, with this result, and I'm not really comfortable of changing code in production that is giving me value, but that I'm not able to I'm not able to change it because I don't have any test that can help me, to be comfortable saying, hey, Nacho, you didn't do anything wrong because you are doing it well, right? So that's why I will basically start with a test. And what I another thing that I normally do is I try to rename all the tests that I normally use, not because I'm, let's say, picky that I am, but it's because I will see why. If you try to mention at least a unit test like this, you will see that then your names of your test will start with an action. That is something that is maybe is a thing that many people do, but I have seen many names of different tests, and I would like to, let's say, emphasize that when I'm starting a test, I would like to verify something. I would like to exactly describe an action or a behavior. That's why ending this test with a should will help you to explain later on what you want to achieve. In this case, for example, I will start with the first one. And as I mentioned not too long ago, I will start now testing with the less complex scenario, right? In this case, probably the less complex scenario is this one, right? That is when I'm trying to throw an exception in case that the user probably is not logged in, right? So this is more or less what I understand. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to explain it like this. So trip services should fail, right? Because I don't want to describe the implementation. Never do that, please, in your test, because then if you throw another thing, you know what is happening. No, I need to rename the test. And well, so what doing things like that? I want to fail. No, fail. What it means fail? Well, if you have to go to the details, then go to the implementation. But if not, just it's failing. Well, at least my recommendation, of course. So let's see that this service is going to fail, right? When, in this case, when is going to fail? Okay, when the user, we say the user is not logged in, right? So logged in. Okay, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think so. So let's try to run it. So how we can do it? I will do it like this. So I can instantiate, not this one. So can instantiate the service, right? And then I can call the method, this get service by a user. And the user, well, it can be any user, I guess, right now. I'm not going to spend a second with this. And then I have to verify, right? For verifying this, this project is based on JUnit 5. So I think I have some assertions already here. It's on defined by POM, yeah. It's a Maven, so I guess many of you may know Maven and these dependencies. So at this point, what I want to achieve, no, right, is that this user not logged in section is going to be thrown. So something like this: user not logged in a section dot class is going to be thrown at which point. Okay, I have it to run kind of a lambda here because this is executable code, and then I will basically run this code. I think this makes sense. If I'm not, just please let me know. Probably what it makes sense is to make this not that bigger, and then yeah. Um, yeah, I think this more or less makes sense. Let me see if I can remove this, and probably I can move this a little bit to the right. Yeah, okay, I think make more sense, and then we can see at the same time. No, so let's see if this gives me any particular output. Um, okay, I just try to make the compile first, Nacho. Good point. Okay, so okay, I was expecting one exception, but apparently I received another one. Again, you can see was expected this user no logged in exception, this one, right? Makes sense. But we receive another one. Oh, beautiful. The code that our friends give us or colleagues give us is not that easy. No, this something that normally happens to you, I guess, that is not that easy as you expect. Okay, let's go one by one, step by step, and see what we can find. So we are running the test from here, then we are called here, and then, oh, apparently here there's an exception called here. Okay, can you see? Is when we are called the gis get logged user. Okay, because we are calling this from here. Okay, so we are not arriving here because of this situation. Okay, why could happen in this case? Okay, why is the reason? Okay, the reason why is that probably we are this user session is built related with the, let's say, with the framework, no, with the, let's say we are working in a particular web application, you have a framework, and then the framework is giving you the opportunity to giving to you the logged user, right? So probably this makes sense in terms of security, right? Probably it makes sense, but I want to test that because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to change anything from here. So let's do one thing. How any of you have any idea how to do that? I will explain you a particular technique that you can use for doing these kind of things. That basically is called the sim technique. The sim is a place where you can basically alter the behavior in your program without editing that in that place, right? It's like you have some software that is working and you want to alter that behavior without basically editing in that place. It's something really, let's say, not difficult to understand. It's something that was defined by, or just, yeah, defined by Michael Feathers in his book, Working Effectively with Legacy Code. I can definitely recommend you to have a look at this book, by the way. And I will try to make this, let's say, I will create a sim to be able to change that. How we're going to do it, have a look. So what I'm gonna do first is try to define a method where I can then basically try to alter this behavior somewhere, not here. So basically I will try to make it like this, right? I will create a method that is called getLookUser. That's okay for me. And even I can make it private or protected. Let's make package private because I don't need to expose anything out of here, right? So now haven't changed anything, in fact, right? I only created a method. In fact, it was done by my IDE. So I guess this struct code doesn't do anything in particular really wrong. I will run the test again and you will see that the results should be the same. It is the same, right? I'm still okay. So I haven't changed the behavior of the actual code, and what I'm going to do is try to alter this behavior that I mentioned, right? How we can do that? Okay, I have a particular idea that is basically, now that I have this method, I can try to, let's say, override this component, this behavior, right? How? With something like this. Let's imagine that we can create a stable class that is only available for, let's say, for testing, and then I can go here and just override the thing that I like in this case with my particular implementation, right? So let's do it like this. Right now, what I expect or what I want is to, when I run this method, I want to return a null value that is the non-logged user, right? This is the thing that I expect here. And then I guess that here I'm gonna be able to continue with my testing, right? So this is working, okay? So I created a scene where I can alter the behavior without editing, let's say, the production code. That's more or less the idea of the sim technique, which I like it very much. Um, so right now I already have some, let's say, some ideas of where I can, what I can do and when, but I will do another thing that you will see why it's interesting. That is run the test with coverage. You will see now here, right, that I have some percentage of code that is going to start in, right? So for the very beginning, you will remember that nothing was covered by test. Now we have something, let's say 50% of the code, more or less is covered, 40% of the lines, right? So as you can see here, you will see the green one and red one is going to see where your code was tested. Well, the code that we wrote as a test is passed through this production code. So more or less, well, we have a small opportunity to improve. Well, a small opportunity, no, a big opportunity to improve, I would say. There are a lot of lines that are not covered by tests, but we have something, right? So let's continue and see what we can do in the future. So let's create another test. Which one could be the second scenario? Okay, the second scenario will be probably not this one, so I have to enter here, right? And at the same time, which one could be the most easy way to exit here? Well, I probably want to skip that, right? If I skip this for loop, probably I'm gonna, yeah, basically just have the isFriend false, and then we are gonna retrieve this trip list that, if I'm not wrong, is here. So this trip list is empty. Yes, so I understand, and this is my understanding, what I'm explaining or understanding the code that I don't know, is that my expectation of my idea is that this code is looking for some kind of friendships. And in this friendship, if I don't have this relationship with a friend, basically we are not gonna do this fine, and then I'm gonna return something that is empty, right? More or less. So let's see if this is exactly we understand. So I will say that because the test again is should, I can explain it in really in English, right? So trip service should, let's say, return um, uh, what we can do, no trips. Oh yeah, no trips when users, because the logged user is logged in, right? What we want to achieve is that the users are not friends. So when users are not friends, right? So that's more or less what we want. Yeah. So let me see if I can do it manually. I normally don't copy and paste any test, but when depending on the time, but in this demo, I will try to make it manually, but probably in the later, I don't know. So what we want to achieve, right, is that when I call this user, and the user will not be empty, right? Because I need a user. I want to achieve and verify that these collections, that is an empty one, right? Elections, come on, Nacho. Empty list has to be this trip service. When I call this trip service with this get tribute by user, and the user is our own or actual user, should be different than different. Well, basically, it has to be empty. Sorry. So let's see if I'm doing it correctly. I'm not, and I'm not basically because the user is not logged in. Okay, because basically still we are passing this null value, and because of this get log user is, all gonna, is always returning me a null. Okay, okay, I have an idea that basically is to I can use this constructor to pass this different user, and then depending on the use case, I can right, I can just define this as a return this value as a logged user or not logged user. Okay, so let's do it like this. This is the non-logged user, right? And you will see why I'm going to do this. Okay, because I think it's more clear what I'm expressing, what I'm describing, right? So this is the non-log user. I'm gonna advance a little bit, but basically this is going to be the log user, right? In this case, let's do it like this. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is going to create this constructor here, and I'm going to assign to a field. And then here, I'm going to return this. Yeah. So I guess it's more or less clear. Now I'm going to use this class as a example where we are going to, let's say, demonstrate somehow that I need to do it in one way or another and then run it properly, right? Depending on the scenario, I will make it in one way or another. And then let's run again. Okay, that now it's working because basically it's using the log user that is a different user, but basically because there are no relation between one and another, they're going to returning an empty list, right?
Hey, Nacho,
Yep.
we have a question. The question is, what is the tool that you're using for code coverage?
For code coverage is basically the code coverage that is provided by IntelliJ, and I think it's already. Let me go ahead. I think it's already the code coverage provided by JUnit, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, because basically it's gonna, JUnit is gonna give you by default the result of your unit test, right? And because of this, you can basically ask for the coverage of your unit test based on their production code. So this is by default defined in IntelliJ. Just to say in IntelliJ, here in dependencies, I don't have really nothing special. So there is nothing really special to have these out of the box to running your test. So that's more or less the idea.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, we have at least two scenarios, let's say, covered, right? And as you can see, the green lines on the code coverage is going to be a little bit, no, increasing a little bit. Now we have more. What is my code coverage? I cannot see it. Yeah. So you remember that not too long time ago we have 40%. Now we are 60% of lines, and well, half of the method is already covered. Okay, not bad at all. But then I think probably we have to enter in this beautiful for loop and also this condition. Now, how we can do that? I will say that, well, if anyone has any other option, I will say that the option is no, build that is for that. So let's see how we can describe that. I will say that we have to return no the friends is that we are looking for the trips for my user, right? If they are friends. Okay, that's correct. So return trips, user trips, I would say no, user trips when user are not our friends. That's I think that's the better description of the scenario, right? Yeah, makes sense. So in this case, please give me the opportunity to copy and paste. I will not do it in any other case and in my career, but this is for the demo purposes, and it's a bit tired. I'm a bit tired, let's say. No, that's not true. But yeah, I think it's much better to be faster in that case. So I have one user, but I have a friend. I need a friend basically to describe that this friend, this logged user, has to be has to be friend of this user, right? So let's define this scenario. How we can do that? So user has to be some friends and has to be, yeah, so I understand. So basically you have to have one friend that has to be this log user. And then what else? So we have to, yeah, I have to probably add some trips, no, because otherwise the user that has some trips is not gonna let's say return anything, right? Probably. So let's create one trip. When where do you want to go? Of course to Barcelona, right? So Barcelona trip. Of course you have to come here. Yeah. So this can be one trip, and
You
I think
paying
we
the
can.
ticket?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's talk later, Orlando. And another one could be the other way around, right? So probably you can pay the ticket in the other way around, and then I can come back to Orlando, right? So that's the other trip that I think we can include for that in this scenario. And basically, we are adding these two trips to our own user. What we expect probably is not this empty list right anymore. What we probably expect is to that these arrays of lists that we can define here could be the ones that we are, I would say, defining previously. So it has to be in this order because otherwise our own framework will say no, it's not correct. So what we expect, right, is after running this method, and because this user, this logged user, is a friend of our actual user, what we expect is that these two um, trips are going to be returned by this function, right? That this service is finding my trip. So let's see if it's correct or not. At least, oh shit, no, it is not working. And there's a message already here that say, oh, trip DAO should not be invoking a unit test. Remember, we are working in a unit test, and this probably could be an impact on the database, right? So it makes sense to do it. No, I don't think so. You should explain or split at least the functionalities your interacting with your own code with something that is out of this, no, including connecting to the network, I don't know, file systems, databases, etc., APIs, etc. So probably you need really fast tests that are the unit ones, and then other different kind of tests can be integration, functional, etc., etc. But in this case, this test is failing, and let's see why. The reason why. So we are calling this, okay, that's cool because we are arriving to here. And then, oh, beautiful, this method is already implemented in this funny way. Probably is not the way that I would say in production, right? But imagine that this is built in this way that you already know that this is working fine in production. But in this case, we don't want to run it in let's say, from the unit test. So how we can fix that? Was just really similar that we did before, right? We will let's create something that you already know, a scene for that, and then let's call and name it, I don't know, trips by user, right? So it's a name that I like very much, that doing getters and this kind of thing. So I don't need this annotation anymore. And with this away, I think I'm not changing anything at all. I'm gonna run this again, same failure, right? The trip DAO should not be invoked. That's okay. And then I'm gonna do similar thing that we did before, right? Let's override this method and then return what we want to return, not this exactly, because then we are gonna call the method, the class, the parent, let's say, method. What we want to achieve to basically to return the user dot trips, right? Let's see now if this is gonna work. Yes. So now, as you can see, we are in another shape, right? To try to change our code. Let's run the same thing, but with coverage, right? So let's do it again. Oh man, this is a completely different thing. I have already more coverage on my class, and apparently my class is already covered. Let's see, the numbers say that they are already, we have the class already covered. Apparently it is. This is something I don't understand why it happened here, but as you can see here, we are entering in all the scenarios, and then I'm really, let's say, more comfortable with the actual scenario that I have because I'm already prepared for changing anything, right? So that's why at this point, I'm more comfortable to commit, for example, and say, look, this is the way, this is one of the things that I skip, by the way, for the demo because of the time. But basically everything that I did, you can do it by any small steps and commit for every single change that you did. Just create a new test, just refactor this, extract method, etc., etc. And then if you have any mistakes, you can go roll back in a second, right? So yeah, that's the scenario that I want to basically start, and then give me a second. I want to drink some water and I will continue. If you remember, I have to continue, and you will know for when. Don't know, Abel, Orlando, you know where I have to continue when?
Sorry, what
Uh,
was that?
yeah, the question is, if you know um, when or in which place I have to continue. So where you want to, let's say, change that code, because remember, I want to change that is not really in a good shape, no, in a good way to maintain it. So where do you think, now that I have this class, this method already covered by test, what do you think I have to do?
Uh,
Which
i-
will be the place where you start, let's say, changing the code?
the
Do you remember the,
deepest branch.
exactly? So the deepest one is probably this one, right? Because this is a for loop, and entering in internally here, right, is the more complex thing. So thank you, Orlando. So that's the point that I would like to achieve, no? And for doing that, let's think a bit what this code means, no? And how I can, let's say, try to figure it out. If we have a method like this, basically trying to find if this log user is a friend, no, of the user, right? If I'm not wrong. Yes. Okay. So, well, something that I can do, let's imagine code that I can imagine that could replace that could be something like user is friend, no, of the log user, right? So this could help us in order to remove all this, let's say, code that is here, right? So how we can do that? Of course, there's only one way to doing it. Is basically go here and see how many tests do we have. And yes, you know, we don't have too much tests here. So let's try to fix that. Okay, let's continue and fix that. So the idea again of this class should be that the user should do things. In this case, what we want to know is that the user is a friend of another one, right? So let's see that the user should identify, recognize, I don't know which verb is much better, but identify that the user is a friend of another one. So user should identify if oops, if I have a friend, if I have a friend, I don't know if it's correct or not. If I have a friend, yeah, it's a friend of. Well, more or less, I think it's clear. If not, we can rename it later on, right? But the idea is that just something like not user, just let's say I don't know, Orlando. Yeah, Orlando is a user, and then it's going to be more clear, no, what we are going to do. Just to say Orlando is friend of. I don't know, probably Abel. Oops. Yeah. So this has to return, right? This is local variable, could be another user, right? I don't care right now in the internal definition of each class, but I guess it's gonna work like this. And then I'm gonna you do the same thing. I would like to just assert that this code is gonna return me true, right? Because otherwise, yeah. So this is gonna be that Orlando is friend of Abel in this case, right? So let's create that method. Right now I'm creating, yeah, production code, but I'm sure that this is going to be, let's say, well defined because I'm going to, let's say, cover by test. So this is the another user, right? And then I'm not going to implement it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna run this test right now and see how it's failing, because it's going to fail, right? Okay, it's failing. That's correct. Then let's try to implement that in the best way we can. In that way, I will say that in this case, I'm going to, let's say, check if this friend is in the list of friends, right? So something like friends contains another user, right? In this way, if this user is already there, I guess this is going to work, but this is not working. Oh yes, probably one of the things I have to do. Just me go back a second, because I forgot to do one thing. Oh my
It's
God.
because we're not friends.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the point. But probably what we have to do is to add it as a friend, right? Because otherwise this is not going to work. Never. So let's do it again. Yeah, okay. Now it's failing again. And let's now implement the solution. So let's see that now in friends, I can see that another user is it's already here, right? Yep. Okay, so this is working. I am comfortable with this method because basically 100% cover, not anything really fancy, right? But for me, in this case, it's gonna help me and see if this is something that I can do here. So let's try it, because this method is already covered by test. Let's see if I can do something like is friend should be equal to the user is friend of the logged user. And how we can verify that this is working? Yes, we can go back to this class and run it again. And if this is working, I think I'm fine with this. Okay, it's working fine. So I can remove all of this. And of course, this method that is okay. So that's more or less one of the small things that I can do. I only just create a new method that is going to help me, to hide this, let's say, complexity and in this case it's really well covered by test. So let's continue with this refactoring. Now I have this deep, let's say, we can continue with this deep thing, but I would like to, let's say, apply another refactor, and it's basically something that makes the things more clear to understand, right? So in this case, for example, I can see this boolean is friend here. One of the things that I like to mention is that at some point you have to, you know remove the things that are not really well designed, but we can do things like moving things where are really used or really that happens when you have a long method that you have a definition already in the top of the method and then you have the usage really below, no? And one of the ways to understanding much better is moving the definition and the usage in the same place. So as you can see, each friend is only used here, right? So I can remove that and basically assign it like this, right? It's going to be exactly the same. No, nothing really fancy here. And I think also I can remove that and use it here, right? So let's inline this, and I run the test again and see if I broke anything. I didn't broke anything because basically I changed the location of a variable and then pretty much I can do similar thing with this trip list, right? So let's move it here and see if after doing this, as you can see, return trip list is only used here, so I don't need to be already on the top of this method. Okay, I think is working. And at the same time, I can see here a few things, but right now I'm not really worried about this trip list. At least it's already defined here, and I have another red idea that now I would like to somehow improve this, because at this point, right, I have this trip by user that is already defined here, and I would like, let's say, to make it in another way. So no, I have another idea. So for example, this trip list, no, as you can see here, is defined here. I'm changing this value here, and if not, I'm gonna return this trip list, right? So this trip list, we can remove it like this. And if we remove it, the compiler will say this variable is not used anymore. And here, what we're gonna do, right, is gonna return this one, and then this one is the empty one, right? So what we can do is basically just do something like this. I can do this, right? And just return this empty list. And if not, I'm going to return this this trip by user, right? So let's see if this is working. Should work, I guess. Oh, I'm missing something. What I'm missing? Oh yeah, my fault. And this is not it anymore. Let's see again. No, I haven't break anything. That's cool, because basically now it's more clear what I want to do. No, if the users are friends, I'm gonna find the trips by this user. If I'm gonna return what? I don't know what is this. Probably this can be kind of empty. So no trips at all, right? Probably it's much easier to understand. Yes, no trips, and yeah, much better, right? It's really easy to understand. Okay, I like it. I like it much better than the other one. In fact, I can do one more thing, that is remove this else this if condition, right? So let's see if it's something like, let's see. It doesn't appear here because I think it was already because of the else. Yes, like this. So let's do it like this. Do you think it's more clear? I think so. Basically, in this way, I can see in only one line that if the user is a friend, I'm going to return these trips. And if not, I'm going to return no trips. Much better. Let's continue with this particular approach and make the things even a little bit better. So if I try to, this if else is not that beautiful in my opinion, because I think have an if here, and then if not, I'm going to throw something. So let's try to invert the condition, right? And see how it behaves. So in this way, I only change the order and it still is working. Of course, in this case also, I can do these things and remove the else, because basically if I'm basically throwing an exception, this is only happening if the logged user is correct. Let's say, okay, now I'm more happy. Even that, I think there's a one thing here that probably many of you had noticed, that this code probably does not need to belong here. No, in a service where you have to receive, let's say, you have some business to do, you don't need to worry about retrieving the logged user. It's something that the framework normally provides you, right? So this is probably something in terms of design that is not really well designed, no? Because you might need in this trip service a parameter, no, that normally you receive as a logged user. That is something that I will try to make now, because this is only used here in another, let's say, service, I can do is be comfortable, right, with this, because basically I will push that functionality that it is going to retrieve the log user for me in another place that probably should be there, right? Because I don't see why this trip service should be focused on retrieving the log user. No, it's probably something that the framework should provide for you. So let's do it, let's try to make it. So now I'm going to try to create a new parameter here that basically is going to give me, right, the log user. Let's code it like this. Well, because otherwise it's going to conflict with this variable. Okay, so let's do it like this. I don't know, like a user one. Okay. Default parameter, default value. Yes, I want to just basically use the null value by default, right? Where you are here. Don't know why it doesn't fill it very well. Okay, so now, of course, this variable is not used anymore. And of course, in every single place that I've been using this method, now I have a null. Okay, so let's try to use it properly and use this value. By the way, I changed many things and I haven't tried to run the test. Still, the tests are passing through, but basically haven't basically moved these kind of things, remove the else you remember, and basically now I introduce a new parameter that doesn't affect, let's say, the functionality at all. But now I want to use that variable properly, right? For doing that, probably what I have to do is to pass this value, right, to the production code that was using this. In this case, this email service, no, as you can see, was here. Okay, for doing that, I think the first way we have to achieve to go and use this log user properly, right? That we want to do is to just basically use this log user one here. Okay, so my idea is to basically comment this out and use this get log user, right, like this, in this way, right? Okay, for doing that, what I want to do is basically, this is the, no, should be the way to doing it. Let's continue as it is. But now, for doing it, what I have to do is to explain that this log user has to be the log user I was using here. So in this case, has to be in this parameter that we have here, right? In this case, has to be this log user here, and in this case, has to be this one, right? Nothing fancy. Basically, I'm passing through the log user I was using in this case. I'm not broken. I'm not going to broke anything if I'm not wrong, because basically I'm not using at all this parameter here. So now I have this parameter. Now I can try to use it here like this and see if now this is working. Okay. Let's see. Now it's working. Okay, that's fine. Now I'm not happy with this name. Let's try to rename it like log user, right? And then at this point, because now it's production code, I have to pass this code to here. And then when it's using in production, though, I can forward this implementation where it was, I think it has to be. Okay, and now I think I can remove safely this, because all the classes that I've been using, all the tests that I have, is already working properly. Now I think it's more clear what it's doing, but at the same time, I think I can improve a little bit, just doing like check log user, right? In this case, this method, I think, is more clear what it's doing, and it's really easy to understand. If the dog user is already okay, I'm gonna do a few functionalities. If not, I'm gonna whatever it's gonna do, right? In this case, I'm gonna throw an exception. Let's run the test again. Okay, and as you can see, there are things that are missing. For example, this one, right, that is not used anymore. Okay, let's remove it. Let's remove it. Yes, I don't need date code, and it's gonna say, okay, this is the end user members. That's fine. Let's remove it. You can see here, this locked user is not used anymore. So then, why use it? No, in this class. So let's remove this field. Okay, and then we don't need that, right? So let's do in this way, because this testable service, this testable class is not used anymore by this in this way. So the test should still pass. That's correct. And then I have another great idea. That's the last one from the live coding, by the way, that is related with this case of here. No, I don't like very much to use this way of using trip DAO because basically it's a static method, right? And it's a way that is bit difficult now to test that this behavior is working. So for me, the best idea to do this in another way should be to use an instance variable that could be something like this, right? And then call a method that can give me the data that I want, right? In this way, I can, let's say, replace that DAO with a particular piece that I can control, I can manage it, right? And in production can be, let's say, the production code that is basically accessing the database and getting the actual data. So in this case, something like, I don't know, tips by user, and I don't even need to do that like this, right? And this way, I can try to make something like this, and in this way, I will really more happy because then I want to use an instance variable instead of a static class with a static method, right? And it's going to be more easy for me to change it. How we can do that? Basically, let's just introduce a field for that, right? And for doing it, just, well, we can try to make it, for example, here. So yeah, let's do it like this. Trip DAO, right? I want to create a field that would be this trip DAO, and this is going to be the let's say the piece that I would like to use for introducing the method that we have here. So let's create that method, right? I don't need that, but I probably need to use that and assign to this field, right? And here probably I might need to just instead of using this for returning the trips, probably I might need to just return the call, right, to call this trip DAO by the method that we already, we don't need to implement it. So trips by this user, right? So let's wait this for a second because basically I don't have this method already, right? Um, so what I can do is to create it here and yes, yeah, start doing it in that way, and then I can move it to the production code. But I will, yeah, we can do it that way on there, or just go directly to the trip DAO. Let me go for a second and leave it right now as it is. This code should still behave correctly, right? Um, what is going to, because I'm fixing that. I fix it in the middle of the test. Bad day today, Nacho. Now I guess this should work. Okay, still is working. So now I want to go here. And as I mentioned, I want to introduce a new method, no? And the best way of introducing a new method probably is to create a test. Go through the test again. Oh man, once more, our friends give us any particular, let's say, anything in particular that can help us, right? So for this case, I'm going to create the last test in this example, and let's see what we can do. So as I mentioned, what we want is to create a new instance method like this that can help us, no, to run this particular code. So one of the things that you can do, let's say easily, is to let's say help the compiler can help you, no, to define this method, and the other way around is to basically call this method from the method that you're going to do. So let's explain me much better with a test. So basically what we know already in the production code is that when we want to try to find something, it's going to fail, right? This is exactly the implementation that we have already. So tripDAO should fail when searching or finding probably much better, finding trips by user, right? So in this case, what I'm gonna do is to run this code, something like this. And the trip DAO, when it's gonna call these trips by user, and it's gonna be this user that we will can create in a minute, is gonna fail, no? So now no, I don't want it. I need to create this variable as a user, right? And this user can be anything because basically it's gonna fail. And now what I want to achieve is to create that method here, just leave it as it is right now. And instead here, I have to define, let's say, the correct assertions, right? To where are you? Assertions, yeah. I have to throw an exception, right? Because otherwise this is not gonna work. And the assertion should be this collaboration exception, right? That is the code that they want to achieve. Is the code that they want to verify that it should work. So this is the code that I expect when I do this, no, that should fail. And yeah, let's try to run it. Not the trip service, it has to be this DAO. Okay, so I expect this collaboration, but in fact, I'm throwing another exception. Of course, it's throwing another one because I explicitly define this as it is. How we can solve that test? Okay, so it's a really easy, I think, is basically call the previous method, right? So doing like something like this, right, with the actual user should what happened? Ah, yeah, because I forgot to, to who is the same signature. So now if I run this test, the test is working because basically I'm forwarding this implementation to the actual implementation, right? And now I think I'm really comfortable because now I have an implementation that's used the actual code. So now I have some coverage that is saying, oh, look, this is using in production. And now I can replace that method that is only use it here, by the way, is only use it here. And this is the original code. So don't worry, this is the, I will show you later on. But basically it's only using my actual DAO, in my actual service, right? So in this case, I think I'm going to move it right now to here and see if I can replace that method by this one. No? So let's try it again. So this is the thing I would like to remove, right? And for doing this, what I have to do is to create the field, right? Because I haven't had this field. Remember, I created on the trips and the stable code. So in this case, I have here this trip DAO. By the way, I don't need that to be public. It's a constant, okay? But I don't need to make it public. And then this trip DAO is not used anymore. In fact, I forgot, I rename it in another way, this method, right? So this is the method I want to call. This trip DAO already is not defined, but let's see how it's gonna work right now. Oh, this is a trip DAO, sorry. So now I have to run it like this. It still is working because basically I'm not using at all like this, and my testable service is using this implementation. Remember, I was writing this and I would like to call that, right? So in this case, this is the important change that I have to do in my testable code now. And now it's gonna fail. I hope, yes, it's failing because basically at this point, we don't have this trip DAO already implemented. Let me see. Yeah, basically I'm calling this and this is not initialized here. So what I can do, right, is to create a constructor and pass it through this trip DAO. And now the thing is that every single place that I have this trip service, I have to use it like here, for example, and I have to create this trip DAO. Let's imagine that I can create it like this, right? That it could be, and basically the place is that where I'm building this relationship with all the services and classes where I need to inject another element that is depending on these trip services. Now, let's see if everything's compiling. I think so. Now I think this is still failing and you will say, why? Okay, I'm calling a trip DAO here that is not, oh, this is my fault. Should not be like this. And then what's going on? Uh, there's no what? Why not? I have this trip service like this. Well, in any case, what is failing? The default, because of the default constructor. Okay, so I can do something like this. I still don't see why I don't need that, but in any case, something like this should work. Basically, I'm gonna pass this trip down right to the superclass. In any case, this is not gonna work because I haven't defined what I'm gonna do with this trip down, right? So this is also null, right? So in this case, this is gonna return always null. In fact, what I want to see now that I have the dependencies injected, what I want to do basically is not use any more connection to the database. Well, what I want to do is to define this as an element that I can is already an element that I can replace. So now I can, let's say, fix that test with the particular approach that I was looking for. That is basically do not use an actual implementation and go to the database. That's exactly the thing that I was going to look for. And the way to doing it is basically to use a tool like Mockito, where you can basically define what you want to expect where you are using this connection, right? So this piece of software that is the DAO that is accessing the database. Now what I want to see is that this, in this case, is not going to return anything, but at least it's going to be used in this case. So let's see if it still is failing that I should be failed, right? And it is failing because basically, as you can see, this test that is was looking for the 2 trips now is using some code that is expecting 2 trips and it doesn't find anything. Why? That's more or less, I think it's more or less clear what is happening. Right now, I'm not using anymore this implementation that it gets the trips from the user. Now I want to use basically the trips that are returned by the trip DAO. So what I have to do is to define the assertions, right? So what I have to do is to describe this situation when I have something and I have to do something with my trip DAO. When the trip DAO is called by the actual user, right, I have to return the list of trip services. That has to be this one, right? So this has to be, let's say, trip list, right? So this trip list is the one that I want to return here, right? Right. So basically, what I did is basically I define what I expect as a result of the searching for the trips. It should be something that the DAO should know, right? So let's run it again. Now it's working. Now I have a completely separation of concerns. I have a service that is already dependent. I have a DAO that's already dependent, and I don't need anymore this testable class. Why? Because basically it's not doing anything indifferent that is actually doing the actual production code. In fact, I have to can remove that, and I can basically, instead of using this testable code, this table class, as you can see, is exactly doing the same thing as here, right? So only injecting a DAO that is using in production. So right now, think I can remove that and remove the stable service with the actual implementation, right? In this case, I think it's going to be much easier to understand, and I don't need to maintain even this inner class in my test. That's even better. And I can do more things like, okay, I have these 3 services, but why I need this 3 service? I don't need it anymore. I can create a new setup that can do these kind of things for me. And in this case, I have also a user. I can do the same thing for the user, right? Why I need to define a user in a variable that is going to be used in a single place? So let's define a user that is my user, and is going to be, let's say, different for in the different cases. But in this case, I'm going to try to maintain my test also clean as possible, right? So even if this a bit longer, I think we can for the let's say for the exercise, I think is much more or less easy to understand. And let's finally realize how was the result of this exercise. So you remember at the very beginning we don't have anything covered by test. Now I have something. Even the trip DAO is not really finished, by the way, because this static method is not used anymore, should not be used anymore, because it's only used here in the trips original. This is the original code, is this one, right? I put it here just to have a look and remember how was the original code. I will show you later. But basically, I can now remove this code. This implementation is because it's already this one, right? This one is already calling this one. Okay, let me go back to the test and see what we did. Basically, what we did was just using this method, right, to verify that it's throwing this exception. So now I think it's clear that I can remove that, right? I can inline that method and inline that method and remove it, right? So this is the method that now I'm using, and the other one should not remain anymore. And this test should also work. Okay, this is the original one, right? So don't do it because this is the original. So let me comment this just to, let's do it again. And this is the trip DAO, by the way, wrong class. Okay, so the trip DAO is working because basically what I did is basically remove the original static method and I put the implementation already in this trip method. And because this trip method is already an instance method, I can use it as it is right now. Okay. So now I'm more comfortable with the results. The coverage is already, let's say, 100%. If not, I think it was, I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you last minute. And I can show you here the original one. So the original is here. So as you can see, this big method, this class that were not understandable at all right now, I think is more clear what it does, right? So basically this method is finding some data, is checked if the user is already logged in, and basically with some techniques it was possible to, let's say, refactoring to change it in more maintainable way, more easy to make it work, and make it easy to change in the future. And yes, we did some work because we have to build some bunch of tests and from different classes that were not really well covered. But at the end, the result I think is the overall much better. Also, we changed the implementation. Yes, it's true. We changed the public signature. Yes, it's true. But at the same time, the design of the solution is much better. We don't need to go and verify that the framework is using something because we already know that this service should be agnostic from the framework. And we are also just basically asking for the solution that is give me the, once I have the log user, I can verify that it's correct or not, then do the verification of whatever, and then do the business logic that it is the one that we expect. Okay. So I don't know if there are any more questions. If not, I'm gonna continue with the presentation. Just give me a grab some water.
Yeah, we don't have questions so far.
Okay, so I'm gonna end up. Those are the two license slides. My recommendations about content that I can think is gonna help you to give you, more tools for doing more refactors and understand a bit much better how to do a few things. So on the left hand side, I share with you some content that in YouTube you could have a look at different katas and exercise where the people are really nice speakers are already explaining how to progress in different exercises and change the code one by one in a different examples the similar that one and I did with you today. And on the right hand side, you can see some books that I recommend you definitely for involving in terms of the knowledge around refactoring code. So on the right hand side, I will start with the most famous role is the Working Effectively with Legacy Code by Michael Feathers. On the of the left hand side, refactoring is the one by Martin Fowler, the one that let's say has gathering all the refactorings and all the catalog, let's say, and you can go deep in all the different refactoring that you can do. On the growing object-oriented software guided by tests is an interesting book for learning TDD, understanding and apply some patterns, let's say. And the last one, the refactoring to patterns, shows kind of incremental changes, right, to make transitions from let's say a difficult start to something that could evolve kind of more pattern-based endpoint, right? So yeah, that's more or less my recommendations, let's say. And I would end up with this final recap that I think I have shown many reasons about why it's important to refactor, right? I hope there is no single bullet about it, right? And I have showed you different types of refactoring. There is a catalog by I remember to mention again the refactoring catalog by Martin Fowler. I will definitely recommend you to the importance of building and having a safety net, no, for changing your code and having some security around what you are doing and how you're doing it. I will basically recommend you to use the percentage of the coverage of your code and see how it behaves and how a particular piece of code is really well covered or not. Depending on that, you can just drive your solution in that way or another. And I will definitely recommend you again what the SIM technique that I mentioned before is. It is and how you can try to use it for changing things that are difficult, let's say, at some point to change. And it's an interesting technique by Michael Feathers. I recommend you to read the book, by the way. And yeah. And yes, I mentioned to work in small increments. If you use Git or any other particular tool for maintaining or saving your code, probably is going to help you, to go back in case anything is failing or is not working properly. And yes, of course, design your software just thinking in testability, thinking that you have to not just make it work, make it verify that it's working properly. And yeah, remember, of course, the Boy Scout rule, right? If you have something, you can clean something and you can make it better for you and your colleagues in the future. I would say, just go ahead, please. And yes, I was definitely try to make these things one and again and practice and try to do it again. Yeah, and I think that's it for me. So you can ping me in Twitter or in my email or I don't know. Just thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nacho. That was really good presentation. I think it's a topic, really important topic, especially not just hearing about it, but when and the importance of doing it. Because sometimes,
Yeah,
I mean, it's easy to miss that. Yeah, I'll do that later, or it's not important, but it
yeah,
has a cost.
Yeah, always. You have to think about when this is gonna arrive, right? And this moment not arrives always, right? That's the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the importance of having testable code bases, because otherwise then it gets scary. If you,
Yeah. That's the thing. No, this situation when you are already scared because I cannot change that, and then I've been in many situations where this is really difficult, but at some point when you know understand a little bit how to change few things and introduce some seams here and some pieces here, and then you can try to convince people to no don't put it like this, just an interface and these kind of things. Then things are gonna be much better in the short or maybe midterm. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, one question that I had, Nacho, is so for example, for developers that are just starting to learn refactoring techniques,
Yeah.
what would be the first resource that you would recommend them?
Well, yeah, let me go back. Probably on the books section, I would say that the first one by Michael Feathers is not that difficult, and is the one that is going to help you to understand this same technique that I mentioned before, not to introduce things in your production code to be able to change it. And yeah, in this way you will be able to, let's say, something that is really difficult, how to, let's say, replace with something that you want to interact, and then you will become more comfortable with something. At the same time, I would say that practicing with your colleagues and with your, let's say, partners is going to be really useful, because then you're going to understand how other people are designing and writing code, and at the same time you can show them, look, this is something that we can do, we can test that in that way, and you're going to be pushing in that direction is going to be I would say beneficial for both of you. Yeah,
Cool.
no problem.
Awesome.
Yeah,
We don't have questions in the chat unless you have questions, Orlando. From
No, I think we can go ahead with the raffle.
Rahul.
Uh,
yeah.
Okay.
so
Should
raffle
I
for
stop?
one
Yeah,
JetBrains license. You have a question, Nacho, that someone can
no,
answer
no,
on the chat?
I I don't know, is there any question here? No, it was for me, it was okay. So I don't know, my question probably, I explained one technique, right, about how you can, let's say, alter your production code without editing. If somebody that was attending remembers the name of that technique, I think that would be great, because it means that the people we were listening. So the name of the technique would be an interesting thing. Yeah,
Cool. So first one that answers gets the
yeah,
license.
cool.
Uh,
We have a question actually it just popped up. He's just asking if we can get the slides.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
And if you have the code um, in a repository that they can probably take a look
Yes,
on.
yes. I will share with you if you want, but you can search for it easily. It's a called Trip Service Kata. It's a kata by Sandro Mancuso. I think it's really well known, and you can find it. But if not, I can share my screen in a second. Let me see. I think gonna be yep, this one, and also I think it's in different languages. Yes, it is. It's this one. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you can see there are different languages you can try in the ones that you like the most, and you can try in Java and Kotlin. I think it's also implemented in different ways. No, so I was wondering if there was different frameworks, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, that's cool.
Yep.
Okay, we have two answers. Actually, they came up basically at the same time, but
Yeah.
Satyajit Nalavade is the first one that answered the question for the raffle. The name that he says the SIM technique. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So
cool.
Satya, if you can send us an email to info at cltjog.org, and we will send you the raffle, the license.
Right.
It's valid for one product for 1 year. Just there will be instructions in the PDF that we always send for the with the raffle code with the license code. But just to make sure that it's one product, because sometimes people try to get the full suite, but it's not valid for the full suite. Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Yeah.
congrats.
Anything else, guys?
No, well, if we don't have any other questions, I know it's late for Nacho. I really, really appreciate you doing this, Nacho, sharing. I mean, a lot of knowledge. This is a really, really good topic, and we know it's yeah 12:35 in
Yeah,
Barcelona,
it is.
so so we don't want to keep you longer awake if we don't have any other questions. But I really, really appreciate you showing up here in the community. This was really great, and everyone else. Thanks for joining. Share this recording with your teammates, with your coworkers. The recording, the replay is going to be available in the same URL, and it's available now. I mean, you can start rewatching this if you want. Um, and well, hope everyone is safe. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving next week, and hope to see you in the next one. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.